Slides up real quick. Funny how when you change your location, it's a little bit harder to do this stuff. All right, Shad, it's all
Hey,
yours.
thank you very much. I'm hoping you can pull my slideshow up, and I'm really hoping that there'll be some questions to go along with it. What I want to pass along is that there is, for a lot of folks, it's a mystery as to what hybrid is. And what I want to let everybody know is that the hybrid class has some obstacles that some folks go through to try and put on a hybrid class. But really, it's just like putting on any other CPS class. And it allows us to be able to reach a different group of individuals that normally cannot be reached through the normal process of an in-person class. So through our hybrid classes, we've been able to reach individuals who are firefighters who could normally not attend. We've been able to reach clinical nursing staff within hospitals that could normally not attend an in-person class, police officers that could normally not attend, as well as being able to reach out to other individuals within social service agencies and school districts that would like to attend a class, but were not able to for any of a number of reasons, mostly related to being away from their work entity for 4 days or their family. So Claudia, I'll let you skip to the next one. One of the other things that we've been able to do with hybrid classes is we've been able to hold hybrid classes all seasons of the year. And specifically what has helped us is normally within the winter time in Illinois, it's very cold. And we put on hybrid classes, or we try to put on in-person classes in fire departments that oftentimes are working agencies. And to try and get an agency to pull a fire truck or an engine out and park outside in the cold and the snow in an Illinois winter is pretty much impossible to do. So with a hybrid class, we can actually go through the entire class online outside of the in-person part. And then we are only asking the fire agencies or participating agencies to pull out an engine or a truck so that we can do the car seat check and maybe some segments of the class, where we focus specifically on the hands-on portions of the class itself in person. So it has opened us up in the state of Illinois to being able to provide classes year-round versus maybe just in 3 seasons. And I want to go through now just some ways that we've demystified the hybrid class in and of itself. So Claudia, if you would advance one more. So part of what you have to work through for hybrid is trying to identify who your working team is going to be, who your instructor core will be for classes. So in Illinois, what I did to incentivize being a hybrid instructor is I'm able to pay through my state grant, pay instructors who want to become hybrid endorsed, or even if they have questions about it, I was able to get approval to pay 1 day's training fee for that individual so they could be outside their normal work unit, receive the day, go through the entire hybrid class, which we identified was maybe an 8 to 10 hour process. Claudia, Kendra, and some of the folks at the National Safety Council have made it a little bit more streamlined in that the hybrid endorsed, our current instructors who want to become hybrid endorsed can type a generic response to all the submissions that they have to make for the hard stops. And by working with Claudia and Kendra to get and Tammy Frank to get those approvals, we're able to speed a little bit quicker through it so that those instructors have answered the question that they need to answer, but can continue on with the online portion to become certified for hybrid instruction. The other thing that I've done, or that we've done in Illinois that seemed to be successful, is we know that there's a lot of instructors who are a little bit scared by the technology, and rather than pull them into some of the technology right away, We've set up the hybrid class so that you can start out as a hybrid endorsed instructor once you've gone through the training. And maybe you just help with the in-person part so that you start to see and talk to some of the technician candidates that are going through the classes and get some of that background. And then work that instructor into being a hybrid coach and some of the online parts. So we divided the online sections up to two different types of hybrid coaches to make it easier for the instructors themselves. We have the VILT coaches that work basically online with the video instructor-led trainings. And we generally per VILT training will have 3 instructors assigned. One instructor will just basically do the introduction and get the ball rolling. The second instructor will be the instructor that narrates the slideshow. The third instructor will review the quiz and do the takeaways. And what's super easy about this is it gives an instructor a chance to go over the quiz as a quiz review that the students might be facing soon. And it's just like doing a quiz review in the classroom. So it makes it super easy for an instructor who's already worked in the classroom to get themselves immersed into the hybrid model and to help with the class. And then finally, the other online type of coach that we have are students coaches. Those are the instructors who are going to have a 1-to-1 ratio or 3-to-1 ratio with those students that are actually taking the classes to be there to be available to answer their Slack questions, text questions that they have, and to be the individual that receives the videos and photo submissions that they're required to provide to the instructor so they can advance in their segments and their modules. And then the other thing that we've tried to do in Illinois is to try and set up mentoring of other instructors from not only just the state of Illinois, but through other classes in other states. Individuals that want to become instructors or hybrid instructors, or want to go through a hybrid for the first time as an instructor so that they can join in. And we've had instructors from other states, from 4 other states that have joined us on some of our hybrid classes that we've had at least the last 7 classes that we've had. Okay, if you don't mind, Claudia, I'll do the next slide. So the other part that's difficult about hybrid, or not so difficult, but has a mystery around it, is trying to figure out the students that are going to be on that class or in that class. And what we generally do is we do some type of pre-consultation with the students that want to, or technician candidates who want to be in the class. And what I mean by that specifically is trying to talk to them about letting them know that hybrid is a different type of class than maybe an in-person class, and try to identify that they are the appropriate candidate maybe for a hybrid class. We've known and learned that some of the vernacular and the terminology that we use doesn't quite translate as well to a hybrid student. So we want to try and make sure that we're vetting those students just a little bit. We don't want to create a barrier to being in a hybrid class, but we also don't want to create a group of individuals that might fail with the hybrid class. So in the class notes section, when a student or an individual wants to sign up to become a technician candidate for a class, I have a pretty lengthy dissertation to let them know all the dates that they will be responsible for being online, because many times they don't understand they'll have to be there for each of the VILTs, and that they also have to be there for the in-person class. For some reason, they tend to not understand that they have to be there for each of those segments, and if they miss any one of those, they are actually automatically dropped from the class. So once I find an individual has registered or gone into the queue to maybe look to register and might be in that pending queue, I'll send them an email. I'll let them know about the full dates of all the classes and make sure that they're able to attend online. Once the individuals are registered, one of the biggest barriers that you have for students in the class is access to car seats, because as soon as you start the class in person, through that 4-day training, 3 to 4 day training, that they're immediately touching car seats and working with car seats. So what we have to do is we've created a survey that we send out to students to find out if they have access to car seats and what car seats they have access to, because we want to make sure they have at least 4 different types of car seats to get through this class. The students that do not have access to car seats are ones that we immediately start to identify how we're going to get car seats to them. And then through vetting the students, we just basically make ourselves available to answer any and all of their questions about the hybrid class. So it's demystified for them as students as well. Okay, Claudia. So the big thing for us is trying to ensure that the students are successful. Over the course of the classes, we've tried to stay at close to 85% success rate for the students to pass. In my in-person classes, I would say we're probably 98%, so there is a drop off. I do know that other hybrid classes across the nation have maybe not had quite as high a success ratio as what we've had. And I think the way that we do it is because we set up the instructor ratio at 3 to 1, 2 to 1, or 1 to 1 for some of the students. We provide car seats to the students immediately. Once the registration is hit and it's online, we verify that the students have certain car seats, and then we will drop ship and order a car seats to any student that doesn't have all 4 car seats to make sure that they have that there. And many of you may ask, like, well, my agency doesn't have the capability to be able to drop ship orders of car seats. What happens is all the car seats that we utilize for the class will drop ship to the students, and then we'll have the students bring those car seats back to us for the in-person segment of the class. And when they bring those car seats back, those are the very same car seats that we'll utilize at the car seat check or provide to the students so that they have some car seats to take back to, to the other locations in the state of Illinois, so that they can basically be our emissary and help us in the field in those locations by being a technician that's readily available to help those that have needs within the community that they maybe can't afford a car seat. We'll provide, generally with the classes that I've done, I've tried to do larger size classes and have classes that will have multi-classes going at the same time. So for instance, I did a super class of 4 hybrid classes at the same time, with one being in Rockford up near the city of Chicago, one in Springfield, which is the central part of the state, and then one in Southern Illinois at the same time, and then one over in Quincy, which is the western part of the state near the Missouri border. So by doing larger classes and having 3 or 4 sessions at the same time, it provides us to be able to give the students a choice of different dates and times they could attend their video instructor-led trainings. There's 4 video instructor-led trainings during the class, and by providing separate sessions, we provide the students with an opportunity to attend on either maybe a Wednesday at 3 o'clock or a Thursday at 10, so that the students have a little bit of flexibility in case something happens in their life, so that they can be able to attend at a different time. I generally encourage the students to always take the first opportunity for the VILT. That way they're not struggling at the very end in case they can't attend, the first day, and then something comes up the second day, they're not able to attend. Rather than lose them in the class, if they attend the first day, they always have the second day as an option to be able to join in. We also provide, when I do multi-classes at the same time, it provides the students with another opportunity that if they have a barrier or an obstacle in their life, that maybe they can't attend the in-person part of segment for their class, they can attend it in a different area an hour or 2 away from where they live, so that they can get that class in and still complete and be a successful student for the class and become a technician. So I readily let students interchange sessions for whichever one that they need or want based upon their life. But that does create a bigger administrative task for us as the instructor core, so that we are able to, we really have to monitor to make sure that the students have all attended all the sessions that they needed to be able to attend. And Claudia, I'm hoping that you're able to catch some of those questions for me as I go through this, and maybe I can deal with each of those at the very end.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
oh, perfect. Thanks, Claudia. And then will you advance me to one more slide? So with the success that we've had and having a great ratio of completion for students, there has been some lessons that we've learned through the hybrid process that we didn't really know would happen before. So we've had technician candidates from same agencies, and what we've found, or what we've seen a couple times, is we've had some individuals that they relied on the other person that was in their work unit, that was in the class, to do all the work. So when they submitted their videos and their submissions to their instructor, what we're getting in person is a finished product that looks good. It'd be like if you went out to the bays at the fire station when you're having the simulations, and the students have been out there, and like one person has coached the other person all the way through what they need to do, and then you just show up and they seem to do everything perfectly. We've had we've had that happen with at least one of the hybrid classes, where the person that was a technician candidate really didn't grasp the concept and maybe wasn't as invested as they needed to be for the class. And when they showed up to the in-person segment, it was very clear to us that the person was very challenged with being able to perform any of the things that you need to be able to perform to be a technician. So, it was the first time I've ever had to fail anybody on an in-person hybrid class. So it's just something that we learned and we had to be on the lookout for. And when I talked to the student afterwards, they explained that, well, Jessie was a really good person and she was really invested in this and wanting to do it. But Tony, the other student, was just kind of doing it because Jessie was doing it and because somebody from her agency had told her, that had volunteered her for the class. And she wasn't really committed, and she really didn't do any of the practicing that she needed to do, just like we would do with a normal in-person class. She hadn't really done it on her own other than submit the videos to be able to attend that, and completing her modules to be able to attend the in-person segments. So testing failures are real, both on the in-person part, but they are also real for the written and the skills 3. We've lost a person or two in each of the not each time, but over the courses that we've had. We've lost a person in a written exam. We've lost a person in skills 3 because they weren't able to get to the minimum threshold to be able to pass a class. So more so than any in-person class, we've actually had some failures. The other failure we've had is we've had students that completely missed the VILTs. And those are just something that, you come predetermined with certain dates that you have to be there. And you have some technician candidates that maybe will have something come up in their life and they've gone 3/4 of the way through the entire online modules, and then they're completely out because they completely forget about the VILTs. And we'll try to reach out to them, but when you have a lot of students in a class, it's really about the group of students more so than one individual that can't manage their own calendar. And by doing that, when we spread the class out, a hybrid class out over a month or a month and a half period, you'll find out that life happens to the students or the technician candidates in class. And so you just have to be prepared mentally that you are going to lose some people that will be in your hybrid class, and you don't really want that to happen. But it is a reality that between the testing, between the in-person, between the skills, between things that happen in our lives, we'll lose candidates along the way. Okay, Claudia. But there's great successes that go, and by being able to have hybrid classes all over the state, crisscrossing the state, I've had the north-south group of classes where I had 4 classes at one time, and then I did a east-west crossing the state group of classes where we've gone across the state, which is what we're doing now. And I've had 4 hybrid classes at one time, as well as 3 hybrid classes that I'm currently having right now. All the students end up attending the same group of VILTs, but then I will go along with a couple core members of my instructor team, and we'll go to each of the locations as the leads, and we will put on the in-person segments in those other parts of the state, utilizing instructors from that area to help and assist us with completing that class. The in-person part really ends up being very similar to a renewal class, except you're providing an overview review for anything that those students want to ask questions about that they maybe didn't quite understand during the online modules. And then you're basically testing them in all the different parts of it. So our success has often been related to the fact that we're providing a pretty lengthy review for those students. It's a review of the entire class from beginning to end so that they're able to accomplish each of the skills 1 and skills 2, and then working together either the next day or at the very end of that day for a 2, 3, or 4-hour car seat check. And by doing that, we're putting lots of individuals that can become successful in their own communities. They're helping us be available to prevent injuries to children in those communities. Claudia, I can't remember if I have one more slide or not. That might be the end for mine. I think it is the end.
It sure
So
is.
I think there's a group of questions that I saw were flashing across, and maybe you can help me by recapping what those were.
Well, sure. Um, some of it's just comments, and I won't read those out. I think
Oh,
that's
okay.
just kind of a for everybody on the call. But the one question is separate sessions something that you need approval for? We were told there wasn't flexibility in attending the in-person sessions due to course administration policies.
So I would say yes, you need approval because the way it's set up, and I've done several hybrid classes where it's just one class. And if you have just one class, you establish the dates and the times for those classes. And when you establish the dates and times for those classes, those are the only classes that are allowed to be given for students. So I talked with Safe Kids and asked if there was a chance that if you're doing all the classes together at the same time, can the students attend any of the class, by setting up a different set of VILT classes? And the answer to that was yes. The other thing, just to let you know, it has gone through a process. Some of the answers for the hybrids, we started at the very beginning. We applied to be a pilot for the hybrid classes. We were not chosen to be a pilot, but then right after hybrid was approved for general use, I think we did the 4th class in the nation, and then we've done lots of classes since. But it's just working with Safe Kids and Cass and the folks there to work through some of those questions that you have. So what we did was we specifically went out and set up a group of classes, 3 at the same time, and we provided 2 different groupings of VILTs that the students could attend. And by providing 2 different groups of VILT, we just have to be able to certify that the students attended everything at the same time, or everything that they're required to attend and get in line. I utilize the same group of online instructors for the VILTs, and online coaches, and divide up who the coaches are going to be based upon maybe the background of the individual that's applied or is in the class. So oftentimes I'll try and put nurses with somebody that's a nurse, that's an instructor, police officers with a police officer that's an instructor, a social service agency personnel with somebody that's a social service agency person that might be in the class. So I hope I answered your question, but you can, if you have only one class, you can have only one set of VILTs. So you're not able to have the flexibility unless you have more. And I'm not necessarily recommending to anybody that they have more than one session at the same time, because when you have your first hybrid class, it felt like putting on 2 weeks worth of in-person classes at the same time. So, but then after you did your first one, it really was kind of like, this isn't really so bad. This isn't really difficult to do. It's just, identifying the roles and who's going to help you in that process. So I hope I answered that question pretty well.
That's an excellent explanation. We did have another question. Can you share a typical schedule that you use? You made the statement about spreading it over a month means life spreads out. The only sample agenda I've seen from Safe Kids is a month-long hybrid course, and I'm currently leading this, and this is one of our concerns of having it being a 4-week long course.
So the class, so once you've established your dates are established. But we wanted to do a hybrid class, and it was really, I just wanted to get a large group done. So I did a hybrid class. I did 4 classes at the same time. I would have had 5 classes at the same time. We had 44 students that registered for those 4 classes. I was not able to get students registered for the 5th class, so they merged in with the other 4. And we started it, I wanted to get one in that culminated in January, which is a very, very difficult time for us in Illinois to be able to put on a class. And to do that, it meant that we had to cover the span of Thanksgiving through Christmas and New Year's. So we provided extra time in between each of those VILTs so that the students could stay and get caught up and catch up to where they were at during the classes. So instead of a 4-week class, it ended up being about a 7-week long group of classes, maybe 7.5 weeks long for the students from beginning to end. It made our job more difficult because we had to really go over more in the review part. That first large group we did as a day and a half in person, which seemed kind of crazy, but I think we really needed a day and a half. We needed the first day completely to cover review. We needed the second day just to kind of go over just the car seat check form and having the in-person car seat checks.
And that was because there was so much time between.
Right. And so I've tried both. I've tried to experiment with both as far as having a very short time and having a long time. And there are benefits to both and there's negatives to both. So it's really what really works best for your instructor corps, because you've got to get them on board first, because you've got to have at least 2 hybrid instructors or you don't have a class.
Right.
So,
and to answer too, it's really up to the lead instructor and the team to decide how long they want to give the students to complete the online modules. I mean, you could give them 3 days if you wanted to do that for each learning block, but you have to also understand that they are trying to do this while they're also working for the most part, because many of them are not. The reason why they took the hybrid is so that they don't have to be dedicated for 3.5 days. So just be aware of the students that you have. And I'm saying this as someone who has taught it as well. And I think the examples that you saw, Allison, online, that is the ideal. That way you give them enough time to get their modules completed and be ready for the build sessions, especially when they start having to submit those videos and things like that. I do have a question for you too before we move to Daniella. How do you feel about preparation? Do you think for the most part that students are just as prepared when they come to the in-person portion as they are in the in-person course, in the in-person delivery?
So a couple things. I think their terminology and vernacular is not quite up to par with with students who might have been there for 3 days. But I think they are very prepared. We've really had great success with the students. We've had great success with the online modules, and we've had great success for the students have really surprisingly all submitted their videos, their scavenger hunts, their questions and answers. They've all submitted to them. One of the things that we've probably done, Claudia, is we've left it a little bit to the instructor as to whether they want to be more on the Slack channel, or if they want to get that communication directly from the student via text, email, telephone call. And by providing that flexibility, we know that the students oftentimes, there's not a mystery to them about using their phone and recording things on their phone and sending it to somebody. It's taken a little bit of that mystery out, but I do have to let you know that when you do that through your phone, you start to run into a bandwidth problem that your Slack channel resolves, that your short video on your phone does not. So it can be hard to upload a longer video to an instructor. So some of those have to go through the Slack channel so that the bandwidth, it works with the bandwidths for the instructor to get.
Thank you. There is another question on there. I'll let you answer that once I get Daniella on the screen. It's a question about how you drop ship. So I'll let you answer that within the chat if you're okay with that.
And I think I read it when it came across. It asked who paid for it and everything. So through our highway safety grant program, we have funding to pay for putting on classes. And basically, I've just reallocated portions of that funding to be able to provide car seats. In our state, I have 33 counties. There's 102 counties in Illinois. I have 33 of the 102 counties, and I operate car seat check events in many of those counties with the technicians that are there. And so I have a budget to be able to buy car seats to provide for all those car seat check stations. And I allocate that money then to buy some car seats for the students. The students then bring the car seats back to the check station when we have the in-person class. So that's how I've been able to fund it as far as a resource. I would tell you that you can do this class without having a funding source, but you do have to kind of put it on the students within that. There's a 7-day period from when they register to when they start the class. And when they start that class, they really need to have right away have maybe an infant carrier type car seat they have to have access to pretty quick. You can put it on the technician candidate to get the car seats, but it becomes if you have the capability to pay for that car seat and get it back or ship it. I ship some, I deliver like the week of between class. I will find out who all lives within my 33 counties, and I will drive like a crazy man from one side of the state to the other side of the state, loading up all those car seats in my car and then showing up at the Charleston Police Department with 12 car seats for the 3 people that are going through class. Because I know that is going to be the first barrier that they have. And I don't want to create an artificial way for somebody to bail out of a class that I'm putting on. So, I mean, I have training seats as well, but we really are just basically using brand new distribution seats most of the time. Okay. So I'll be glad to answer any of the other questions later, but Daniella needs some time for her.
She sure does. Thank you. Sure. Daniella?
All right, thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay, oh, and now I can't get in there to put my slideshow. Oh, wait. Sorry, guys, bear with me here. If I do presenter view, can people see presenter view?
Yeah, we see the actual slide.
Okay, perfect. Yay. Okay. So, hello everyone. My name is Daniella Brown. I am a CPSTI, and recently, well, I was certified as a hybrid instructor a while ago. I am a member of the Child Passenger Safety Board as a car seat manufacturer representative, but today I am presenting on behalf of Appa Baby. So, giving you a perspective, we shall say, from more of a rookie. I have not done a lot of these classes, and I did a little bit of mentoring under Shad as well. So that's giving you a little bit of perspective about my journey, or this is going to give you a little bit of perspective on my journey. Okay, so where I started, and I understand that we're all kind of in the same boat. I'm hoping there are some new instructors that are on here that are looking at taking that next step to try a class. So I'm very fortunate to serve on the National Child Passenger Safety Board. It can be intimidating at times, though, too, because I'm among some amazing professionals in the field. When I started, the hybrid curriculum was just getting underway, and we were encouraged to go through the training and try it out. I originally did sign up to conduct a pilot course, but I was too late, similar to Shad. Although, it all worked out for a reason. It was a blessing because it allowed me actually time to go through it at my own pace. I was nervous to get training put into practice, and as time went on, I was getting close to coming up on a year after I was hybrid trained. So we talked about the possibility of mentorship, and I jumped at that opportunity, and that's how I met Shad, and I was able to join as many of his trainings as possible, which was tough as well for me because I was trying to maneuver around my own schedule. So now it's obviously at this point, it was time to rip off that bandage and just full, speed ahead. So a friend and colleague of mine, James Fitzpatrick from Newell Brands, which is Graco, we were toying around with doing a class in Toronto, Canada. We both have offices there, and this was like the first hybrid international class. So we decided to rip off that bandage and get going. Would I have loved to do a class as an instructor rather than supporting a lead role? Absolutely. But we decided to keep it small, work together. So we kind of shared that lead instructor role. And it does not work for everyone based on personalities. I was very fortunate because James and I knew each other and we get along very well. We know each other's personalities, our strengths and our weaknesses. So it was a nice balance for us. Before we started, though, we went over some of the things that we wanted to achieve as, this being our first class. So we decided that we wanted to have a small class, first of all. First time, both of us are doing it, and we decided we are just going to do employees. That's it. We knew who these individuals were. We had an idea of how they knew car seats, which is a little bit of cheating. We are very fortunate to be able to do that because I do understand typically, and I do in-person classes where you don't always get people, obviously, coming into the class. You get people from all walks of life and all professions. So this we did kind of finagle a bit, I guess you could say. So I had 3 and James had 3. As far as a location, we decided to do it at Newell headquarters, which is just outside Toronto. They have a really big parking lot and a great area. They have a huge classroom inside. You might be wondering your competitors, but it wasn't like that at all. We do take that into consideration. And finally, the accessibility. How are we going to get access to all of these resources? The fact that we both work for a car seat manufacturer worked out in our favor here, where we were able to help with resources because we had them there, competitive seats as well as our own seats. So then mentorship happened. And mentorship allowed me to feel confident and think, okay, I'm going to get over this hump and I am going to move forward. So James and I were toying around with this class. We said, we're going to do it. James was, I'm not sure if he was able to mentor as many of Shad's VILTs and trainings as I was, but at least one of us was, and it was a partnership and we were doing what we could. However, once I got in there, my head was spinning. I wound up entering a huge class with Shad, and there was a ton of conversations going on in Slack. There was a lot different, there were classes from, different sides of the state, as Shad had mentioned. So I worked with our team over at Safe Kids and the National Safety Council, and they removed me from one of the classes so I could just focus on the one because it was just too much for me and it was really overwhelming. However, so what did I take from the mentorship? Organization. So it pays to be organized. And I'm sure you all understand this. So Shad was an amazing mentor. He was organized, he was pleasant, he was kind, he was welcoming. He introduced myself, although I was at the back with my camera off and I was muted, just taking notes. And I stayed on as long as I could. As far as Slack, I was overwhelmed at first, but what I needed to do was take a step back and understand my role. I felt like I was part of the class and I needed to respond to a lot of this. But once I realized I'm mentoring, I'm in the mentorship program, I'm checking out Shad, seeing how him and his team respond to these answers. It was a lot better because I could take a deep breath. It was nice because I was able to see the questions that came in and noticed it was a really great place to ask just general questions. I understand there was some of the coaching and connection with instructors back and forth. However, there were some general questions that were put in Slack that I was able to monitor. So I was appreciative of that because it gave me an understanding of what was being absorbed, what wasn't, perhaps. And even just it's always, as you guys know, teaching an in-person class, that's part of the dynamics of the class is having that interaction. And you do miss some of that because you aren't face-to-face. The VILT. So Shad and his team, they created extra videos, which I thought were great. They were showing car seat installs with tips. So I understand that it is it's incorporated in the hybrid system. However, Shad and his team, they went above and beyond and they were showing an install. They split up the responsibilities when it came to coaching and to teaching. So they did teaching similar to we would in an in-person session. They almost had someone in a support role and someone that was leading. And I love the dynamic there. It was nice to hear from one voice. And then after all of this, I realized that Slack wasn't as hard to follow. And in teaching, you kind of heard everyone's voice this way too. It was nice having those VILTs to connect visually. So would I continue to ask to see classes behind the scenes? 100%, because I'm going to grow as an instructor this way. I would mentor myself as well. In fact, I did. We had another board member that was behind the scenes while we did our first class over in Toronto. And it was very nerve-wracking and it was distracting at times because I let it get to myself, but she also knew that this was our first time doing it. So I highly encourage, if there's anyone on here that has not officially taught yet, please go in on the back end. Claudia can connect you that way. Kendra can as well, just to understand and see how things are run. And just like teaching in person, you get different tips of information, you get different aspects of teaching that you might like to take with you yourself. So, but again, rip off that bandage and get out there. So being ready for class, how was our checklist? So we said we wanted a small class, we wanted employees, we wanted a location, accessibility. This was before. And then we have after. What really happened was small class, yes, we had a small class. Employees, well, that broke down a bit because Newell went through some layoffs. So they wound up losing some of the individuals that were going to be part of the class. However, which was great, we had 3 people, or 2 retailers and one that took the Canadian certification that joined our class. So it was nice to get a different perspective, but it was also nice because we knew that they were vested. As far as a location, well, since everything happened with Graco, Nualco, we wound up moving our location to, we have an Up a Baby Canadian headquarters location and we have a hub location. We were able to move there seamlessly, which we were very fortunate for. And we were still able to access everything that we needed. So we thought, we'll get there. So the planning meeting, we talked about mentorship takeaways. So it was all about the communication, the organizing, and the live demonstrations. So that's what I took from mentorship, from everything that Shad and his team taught me. Slides. So you can either split them or do 100% of them. Shad had them do 100% of them. James and I, because we were doing a partnership here, we decided to split it. And that's how we presented our slides during our VILT. Coaching, yes or no? We thought, oh, it's a small group. We're just going to coach everyone together. I'll get to that in a second. Slack, we decided we were just going to roll with it. Fortunately, it worked because when I wasn't online, James was online. We were able to really be attentive to our team, and they were able to reach out to us on a personal level as well. We wound up giving them our cell phone numbers, which is not available to everyone, and I understand, but that was something that we did in an effort to support them and their schedules. We forgot about our own, which I will get to in a minute, but we were planning meeting before each VILT. That's what we decided we were going to do. James and I met before each VILT. We were going to plan, we were going to figure out what we were doing for next steps. We had our kickoff meeting. So we made sure that everyone had access, files, software, car seats, vehicles. One thing I want to mention is please make sure that they use the same email they sign up with when they try to go into the systems, because we had that issue. We figured it out, thankfully to Kendra. But so availability, we had shift work. The people at our hub work weekends and we had people at retail that are working past 6 o'clock. So we provided our cell phones in order to, have that accessibility. Employer support. We nailed home, I don't know how many times, it's important that your employer supports this. Otherwise, we wanted them to feel successful, and that we felt like that was going to be a barrier if the support wasn't there. Coaching, we did not outline it. Like I mentioned, we just decided to just coach all 6 of them. Expectations, we tried to do everything through Slack as much as we could, but I know Shad just mentioned bandwidth. So we also worked on other ways for them to send us videos and submitting content that way. So we tried to be flexible because people were having problems uploading some things to Slack. Progression of the class. Overall, it was a great group. They were all invested in the outcome. As far as preparation, some blocked off time, some did not. So 5 out of the 6 people usually completed the VILTs. They completed all their work by the time the VILT came up. One thing that we did is after our first VILT, where we had one person that was behind, I got off the call and I got on the phone with her and I made sure she blocked off time in her calendar to support. I was very lucky. I'm able to do that. Small class. That was something that I did in an effort to support my class and ensure that she felt supported. Vehicles. We had limited vehicles because a lot of people in our class, they lived in a major city, so they didn't have cars. They had mom or dad's car, or they used their neighbor's car. So it was difficult at times in order to get some of the vehicle series stuff done. When we did our virtual in-learning trainings, our discussion, we factored in extra time whenever we had that, where we had class discussions. And a lot of times, as you know, some of the most wonderful aspects of teaching and doing our in-person training is having those conversations and addressing those questions that come up. So we allotted extra time during our discussion points, during our VILTs. We also did the live demos. We had different types of seats. We went into some of those components. We talked a little bit about load legs.
Thank you, but
And
thank you.
so, you know, just some of the extra stuff that we decided to do. I'm almost done. I know we're crushed for time, so I apologize. Skills evaluation. I mentioned we had lack of vehicles. So what we did is I had some employees. I made sure that they had vehicles, and I tried to get a variety of vehicles. We had a pickup truck. We had a 2-door sedan, which I feel like you rarely see much anymore. You always see the 4 doors. I know we see 2-door, but, and then as far as install support, we took time before skills 2 and 4 to spend some time with them because it was hard to understand their skill level going in. We just, we saw some stuff with videos, but really understanding if they got it and if they understood, because we all know that in person, we have the written test. Some people do better with the written test. And then there's some people that just don't have that hands-on specialty or vice versa. So this was kind of hard. And before we went into our skills evaluations, it made us see exactly what we were walking into. And then finally, what would I do differently? Coaching, I would have divided up regardless of size. I definitely would have done 3 and 3, just so you can have, I guess, time. This is all kind of incorporated. The hard stops are planned differently, the time management. And the only reason being is because we were on weekends, we were at night, and there was time away from family, and understanding that's all part of this. Neither of us really thought that it was going to be that time consuming, but really we know that if we try and create boundaries, I feel like this training would be more manageable, like 100%. And hard stops, just evaluating before on the instructor side. Sometimes we're coming in hot to some of those hard stops, and they're submitting stuff, but it's a matter of you have to go back, find out where they are in their process, and going back and making sure they're addressing the information correctly. So there's some things that I'm toying around with, trying to figure out how I can make that better, but that's definitely an area that I want to improve as an instructor. So that's all I have, Claudia. I don't know if there's any questions. Much like Shad, I was different, so.
There was a couple questions, but it's really questions that Safe Kids would have to answer. One of the big questions is, if somebody wants to mentor prior to being endorsed, can they just sit into the course and just kind of watch and oversee? Nobody on the call today has the ability to say yes or no on that. So I just kind of texted in the chat that would be a direct question to Safe Kids certification on that. But definitely they cannot help. We do know that they cannot help with any of the sign-offs or any of the teaching or anything like that unless they are endorsed. So that's a big thing to know. Does anyone want to come off mic and ask a question, or maybe put something else in the chat before we got about 4 minutes left?
So Claudia, I went through Safe Kids to find out, because I have several folks that would like to become instructors, and you cannot become an instructor through the hybrid course. Just
correct.
In case anybody wants to know.
Right. That's not what they're asking. They're asking if they can sit in and watch it before they become endorsed. They're already an instructor. They just want them to sit in and watch it. So it's a little bit different.
I just want to say I was endorsed before I was able to do this. So,
yeah. Any other questions? Wonderful. Thank you both for your time today. I know both of you are super busy, and we're going to go ahead and move forward. So I just want to remind everyone on the call today that we do have resources available to you that are related to the hybrid course, the hybrid delivery, the national certification course. You can find those at Safety Connection, which is the second dot there, which is at carseateducation.org/safety-connection. And on that actual page, when you go to the CPST resource page, you'll be able to find tools and tips for the hybrid delivery. You also can watch the How to Hybrid video if you haven't already within the carseateducation.org website. That gives you a little bit more detail about how to host a hybrid course. Also, with the National Child Passenger Safety Board, there's a lot of resources there for you in the instructor protected materials. If you haven't become endorsed yet, you can actually use that to sign up to be endorsed, to go through the training for that. The endorsement process is 2 courses. You'll take the Train the Trainer, which is a hybrid, basically teaching you how to do the hybrid delivery as an instructor. It's about an hour's worth of training. And you'll take a quiz for that. You have to have at least an 80 to pass the quiz that goes along with that Train the Trainer. And then you also go through, like Shad explained earlier, you'll go through the hybrid delivery model, go through all the modules of the hybrid delivery as an instructor or as a student. But you don't have to do any of the videos or any of those kind of assignments. You're just running through it to see how students progress through the course. So those 2 are required for you to be endorsed, and you can learn about that through the instructor protected materials at cpsboard.org. You also can find answers, some of the most frequently asked questions at Safe Kids' website at cert.safekids.org. They have a handy FAQ section, and you can go straight to the hybrid delivery model, and all the questions about the hybrid are under those FAQs. When you go to their website, go to the top bar, the banner bar there at the top, and on the far right, it has FAQ, and that'll take you right where you need to go. I also wanted to let you know that we do have a couple of upcoming forums. In June, we're going to have Liz Perez from the National Child Passenger Safety Board. She's going to come and talk about when you're working with CPSTs who speak Spanish, when Spanish is their primary native language, how do you guide them into the program and get them involved in the programs within your community? And then on the 15th of July, we're going to engage CPSTs in local programming. It's going to be still on the CPST board area, but we're going to look at how to find them, number one, because sometimes that's hard to do, and then how to get them involved and be part of your programming. And this is all technicians. So hopefully you'll join us for those, and you can register for those at cpsboard.org/webinars. You also can go there through the Safety Connection webpage as well. It takes you right straight back to that sign up page. All right, if anybody else doesn't have any other questions, we'll go ahead and close out the session. Thank you again, Shad and Daniella. We really appreciate your time today. And I'm trying to see here. I had somebody say, I'd like to urge that we say checkpoint rather than VILT. Thank you, Denise. That's a very good thing to say. I don't see why we would use jargon that is not understandable by everyone. Thank you, Denise. We try to do that. Also, we teach people during the How to Hybrid about the VILT in terms of that acronym. But yes, we should always try to explain everything. All right. I have submitted this feedback. It says, I would greatly appreciate instructor, the learning management system remain unlocked after endorsement. And that is a big challenge when trying to coach students through some questions that arise during the learning process. Appreciate instructor LMS remain on. Yeah, the instructor's LMS does remain unlocked. I'm not sure why there's been issues with that. Melissa, if you do want to reach out to Kendra or I, we will be happy to see what's going on with that. Yes, Shad, did you have something else?
I just wanted to say, if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad. I posted my email in the chat, but it's shadedwards@comcast.net. I'll be glad to answer any questions. And any of our future hybrid classes that we have in Illinois, I've always made it available if a hybrid endorsed instructor wants to attend, just to see our planning meetings, just like Daniella talked about. We plan out each one of the checkpoints, VILTs, whichever term we want to use. They can certainly join in and see the whole process, and it will be demystified for you, I think. It's just a process of going through.
Okay, right. Melissa, if you would just reach out to Kendra and I will help you with your portal as well on the learning management system. All right. Kendra sent her email for you to do that. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Again, if you want to watch this online, it'll be posted at carseededucation.org in the next 48 hours or so. And thank you again. We hope to see you next month. Goodbye, everybody.